As crazy as it is to say, we are well into our way into 2026, and a lot has already happened. That's why I wanted to give my top 5 bold predictions for the real estate market in 2026. Number 1, a non-real estate related event is going to shock the real estate market. But what do I mean by that? So I think it's fair to say that we are in a period of volatility and a lot of unrest that's happening in different areas. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on both domestically and globally. And I think that although there are some solid fundamentals and components of the real estate market, there are always things that can shift the ultimate supply and demand basis based on things outside of the real estate market. Now, I know this is a vague prediction because I'm not really giving a lot of detail, but I do think it's important for you to think about, in the event of an unexpected large-scale event, how would that impact the real estate market and how would you react accordingly? So, if I can give one pro tip for something like that, when you're in a period of uncertainty, let's say you're a home buyer out there and you're actually going under contract on a house, rather than play the interest rate game and see if you can price shop interest rates, sometimes locking in your rate and getting some stability in your transaction can go a world of a difference in terms of you actually making it to the closing table. So that's number 1. Number 2, interest rates are going to come down in 2026. Now, I am actually being a hypocrite because the number one thing I tell all my clients is anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen with interest rates is a bold-faced liar. But at the same time, I do think you need to make some educated guesses as to where you think things are going to go, and then make sure you have a plan in place if that actually doesn't happen and what you would do in the other scenario. I do think there are a number of important things that are giving some indicators that we actually may have lower interest rates on the horizon. First of all, we have an administration in place right now that has made it very clear that lower interest rates are something that is going to be a key focus, and there's been a lot of pressure actually applied to the Federal Reserve, which is supposed to be an independent body, but being told that the interest rates need to be cut. And although there's not an exact one-to-one correlation between federal interest rate cuts and real estate interest rate rates, it is important to know that the basis of where the market thinks the Fed is going will impact potentially the real estate interest rate market. So when you have an administration that's applying a lot of pressure, you have a new federal chair that's going to be elected in 2026, and there's been some seat changes in the Federal Reserve governor bodies already in 2025. I think it's prone to have the Federal Reserve making decisions that could potentially be bringing us a lower interest rate environment. Now, there's always the elephant in the room, which is what's happening with inflation. And based on that activity, it could be the countermeasure to some of the administration's goals. So if you're really looking at interest rates next year, it's going to be this counterbalance of, is inflation rising, which could mean higher interest rates, or if inflation continues to stay steady or even fall, we very well may see a lower interest rate environment in 2026. Which leads me directly into bold prediction number 3. There are going to be more home buyers in the market in 2026. I've actually been personally astounded by the resiliency of the market. In traditional economics, when we had higher interest rates coming over the past few years from that 2021-2022 phase into the 2023-2025 chapter, where we had trickled all the way up to almost the 8s, and now we've been hovering between 6 and 8, you would have thought, at least I did, that there may have been a decrease in buyer activity. And while things did cool off from those crazy years of 2020 through 2022, the market as a whole has proven to be pretty resilient, and which has led to home prices continuing to trickle up. So when we're having higher home prices and a higher interest rate environment, usually that would make it a harder purchasing environment. But now we have, going back to my previous kind of point, is that we have had interest rates trickling down where I just saw for the first time them get to the 5.9s in the first time in a long time. And if that happens, just being in the field as a real estate agent and someone who's talking to the community, I know there's the demand for buyers out there. Buyers want to buy homes in America, and that hasn't gone away. What has made it challenging is the affordability crisis, and I think that if we start to see any significant movement in the interest rate market, you're going to see a wave of buyers rush back into the market. So that actually leads me into my bold prediction number 4. We are going to have a 3-year high in home sales volume. What do I mean by that? every year there's a certain number of homes that are bought and sold each year. Now, we had some record high years in the past, and then over the past 2 years, we've really been sitting between 4 million and 4.1 million homes sold, which relatively speaking is on the lower side for historical sales in America. Now, part of the reason of that is what I was just talking about, where buyers have kind of slowed up a bit in terms of their actual demand because of the market. But at the same time, I think a bigger driver of that is many, many home sellers in America have locked in great interest rates, and they said, unless I have an actual situation I want to go to, I'm going to button down the hatches and I'm staying in my house. And because of that, you're seeing less homes listed on the market, which ultimately means less availability, which means although buyers are still active in looking to buy, they're not looking to buy as much inventory as what could be on the market. And I think this year, 2026, is going to start to open the gates again, where you see a lot more seller listings coming to the market, and with the increased buyers, a lot more buyer activity. So those two things are going to drastically drive where we land. The last one I wanted to get a little bit more tailored to the Northern Virginia DMV market because I live there. And I'm actually saying that I believe the hottest real estate market in Northern Virginia is going to be Reston, Virginia in 2026. Now, I think there's a lot of development going on in the Northern Virginia area. I'm actually planning on posting future videos about some of the biggest areas that are having development, and I do think there's a lot of major projects going on where Reston won't always be the case for that. But when I'm looking at the entire Northern Virginia map, I'm seeing things that are happening in Tysons, things that are happening in Ashburn, in the data center kind of beltway, and those two markets are huge drivers, but Reston continues to be one of the premier communities offering both the lifestyle and pricing availability for people that are looking to have both of those things offered as a nice sweet spot. So as I continue to see developments in Reston and around Reston, I think in 2026, they are going to show the highest appreciation rate in all of Northern Virginia. Now, I will say I don't think they're going to be the highest in 2027, but I'll save that for my 2027 real estate market forecast next year. So these are the things I'm seeing in the market. I hope that you find them helpful, and maybe you can do some research on these topics and tell me if you agree or disagree. But it'll be an interesting year regardless, and I think the people that are preparing and looking out on what's happening in the landscape of both their local, national, and damn near global market will be able to have some insights as to what's going on and be educated buyers and sellers in the real estate market this year. Thanks so much, and until the next video.